what's the point of knowing all this stuff? Is to know ahead of time, know before you have to play something how to play it. You know, you do you practice a 1-5-6-4, for example, and you do that. That's good if you have a generic song. If you know a song, what you do is you take that, you describe that in numbers. You figure out what the numbers for it is. Then your ear associates that number like a 1-5-6-4. Don't stop believing or whatever. Your ear will start to pick that up the next time you hear it. So that helps you pick songs up faster. That's where that's useful. Does it help you play better directly? No, but when you learn songs faster, that does help you play better, because you are going over ground you've already been over before, and if you recognize that ground, then you are playing things you've done. You're like, oh, I've done this, and you go right to it rather than having to try to figure out what you're going to do when it gets there. That's the reason why I put the 2-5-1, the 1-4, 1-5-1, and the 1-5-6-4 up on the dry erase board, is that all this stuff is to help you practice for that. But pick your favorite song, or find a good song you want to do that day, take it into numbers, and you go, okay, that's X, Y, Z. Or if we're doing Gloria, for example, which we did, 5-4-1, 5-5-4-1, 5-5-4-1, and A. And that's how we think about that in natural number. Now you've got Gloria, now you've got Jailbreak by AC/DC, now you've got Bittersweet Symphony, now you've got all these other songs, and it's not a new song anymore. It's 4 or 5 chord progressions as opposed to 50 songs or 100 songs, especially when you can go from key to key. The numbers mean you barely have to think in different keys for that. So that's what helps you play better. You know songs better and quicker, and when you do that, you can execute your moves, you can execute your triads and all the other stuff that you know. In other words, you know what's coming without barely knowing what's coming, So there's that. Okay. So what happens is there's fewer and fewer things that it looks like when you first get started. There's thousands of songs and it's just coming at you from nowhere, right? But the more you learn, the world gets smaller. The number of things you have to remember gets smaller, and you realize there's fewer chord progressions. There's similar licks that work over more of the chord progressions. There's just fewer things that you have to think about, and that's the goal of good, solid, practical music theory, like the natural number system. That gets you into songs quicker because you recognize things quicker and you know what to play over it. And when it starts to seem like fewer things and things are getting simpler, that's the idea. A lot of these guys that are your Cornell Duprees and Steve Croppers and the studio guys that do this stuff, that's how they just seem to play just what they need to play, and that song's going to be a hit probably, that they played on, because that's the kind of songs they play on. They say, hey man, I need the simplest thing that you can do here. Steve Lukather talks about this a lot on his things. He's like, if it takes too long, you're doing the wrong thing. Guys like that. Yeah. They take it right down to only the thing that you absolutely have to have that glues the whole thing together, and that's why producers pay those guys so much money to do what it is that they do. The world gets smaller, and you do less because you know how to boil it down to its components.